Good evening, and welcome to the second episode of the About the Cards podcast, live tonight here on YouTube, with your host, Super A's collector Ben Wilson at our trading cards. What's up, Ben?
Good evening, Shep. How are you?
Doing well, doing well. We also have Twins lover and homer, Stefan Loeffler at Junkwax Twins. How are we doing tonight?
I'm doing great. How's everything over there?
Doing well, and of course myself. As you can see, Kansas City Royals, Club PC, George Brett Collector, Tim Shepler at Big Shep 79. Guys, just to cover what we are, we're a podcast of collectors for collectors, and we hope to bring you a smart and hopefully insightful podcast about trading cards and what's coming up with them in the future. We're live every Wednesday night here on YouTube, 8 p.m. Pacific Coast time and 11 on the East Coast. You can follow us on Twitter at About the Cards. We do appreciate it. We've been on a little over a week, and we're over 160 followers. We definitely appreciate everybody joining up and following us there. We're also available on iTunes and Stitcher, and you just need to search About the Cards pod, and we'll be on there. And we'll soon be on the Google Play Store. You can also follow us on the YouTube page and subscribe. And if you click the little subscribe button, it'll tell you when we go live, and you'll be able to check out all of our previous episodes that we have on there and any future ones. And like I said, we just want to thank everybody that's followed us and subscribed. I think we have almost 30 subscribers on YouTube, which is good. We're shooting, for as many as we can. Nice round number like 100 makes me happy and smile. But the response has been amazing, and we hope to deliver the show that you guys are looking for and want to follow. So we definitely appreciate that. The first thing we're going to go over is one of our main segments we're going to have every week, the week that was, and cover all the releases that came out last week. The top one being 2018 Top Series 2, released last Wednesday. And I just want a quick revisit. You guys have opened some product or had your team sets come in. Having those cards in your hands and seeing them. What's your feel, and how do you feel about the set, and what you picked up so far?
Stefan?
Sure. I opened up a few packs of Series 2. Didn't get too much. I think I just got I actually got Ben's pack, 3 Oakland A's, single pack. But I also broke a little bit more Donruss. And what was that?
Be an A's fan now.
No.
Yeah, if you're pulling A's cards.
I just got an easy person to mail into. And no, I broke a single pack of Donruss and got a Frank Thomas printing plate. So
very nice.
All of that.
Yeah, so I haven't had my team sets come in yet from Brent, but I've started a lot of the inserts or autos and relics have started to trickle in. For anybody that's watching live, I'm going to show the Ricky Henderson short print for anybody that hasn't seen it yet, along with the Matt Olson. We touched on these last week. The legend ones are extremely sharp looking. Ted Williams, Cal Ripken, a few of the ones we touched on are really, really fun to collect, I would think. Most of them seem to be selling anywhere between about $5 to $12 each on the legends. So for anybody out there that likes that vintage look, that collects vintage, it's a kind of a fun modern day product to collect. And then this did come in as well. This is the All-Star manufactured relic. This is from 1980s All-Star game with Ricky Henderson. Once again, for anybody that's out there watching, Shep mentioned that last week as one of the many different options in Series 2. So yeah, the cards, like always with Flagship, are really fun to collect, and generally speaking, are very, very sharp and a good addition to any collection. Did we lose Shep?
I think we did.
We lost Shep. All right.
Now's
when we start talking about his George Brett jersey, and I think we're getting him back.
There we go. Sorry about that, fellas. I don't know what happened there.
It's all right. We were just mentioning how Mike Schmidt is the best third baseman in modern day baseball.
This is the best looking short print that was in there.
That one's a good one too. I love the images, and they don't really look photographic as much as they almost look. I don't say like 1953 tops where they're more paintings. I don't really know how to explain it, with a good descriptive word, but they almost have like a glow to them as I'm looking at the Ricky Henderson. So they almost look like they're airbrushed almost.
Some of them more so than others. I know I think it was the Jackie Robinson I was looking at. That was just super filtered. And some people like those, some people don't. It's just visibly different than all of the other short prints.
It's kind of nice to be different and have it, if you're opening up pack. It works really well for not necessarily the Hendersons and the Bretts, but Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and Jackie and Ted Williams and the guys that are deceased nowadays. Anybody that would have retired probably before the 80s, it just gives that good vintage feel to it. A lot like some of the old Bowman products in the late 40s, early 50s that kind of had that T206 style where they're more paintings or illustrations versus photography.
Yeah, and the other thing too is that as we spent a lot of time on this last week, but I went to move on. The big thing that popped out was that there was a numerical error. Card 365 was both Malik Smith and the Dodgers. The Dodgers supposed to be 364, and card 564, Joe Ricard and the Mets shared that card, and the Mets were supposed to be 565. Not a huge deal. Not really a game changer or a bust on the product. Those things do happen. And just be aware of it. We have with the internet now, we have the checklist on Beckett and on a Cardboard Connection that allow us, to check those things out and see and figure out what's going on there. I want to move on to the Topps Living. I think I know Ben and myself have enjoyed this quite a bit, picking up some cards here and there. But last week you had Scott Kingery, and he ended up selling 7,277 copies of his Topps Living rookie card. Joe Ricard sold, who was my pick, to be the low number. He sold 5,791. So, he was nowhere any close to the bottom five. Jackie Robinson sold only 13,147 cards total. And did you guys pick any of these up? I picked two of the three up because I picked up Kingery because he's a rookie, and Joey because I thought he took a hedge on a bet and probably not going to work out the best for me. But did you guys buy any of them this week?
Go ahead, Steph.
I've got a bit out on the Jackie Robinson. I'm looking to pick it up just for the novelty factor for Topps Living and everything.
For anyone watching, I just got the Ricky Henderson in for the PC, which is cool. I haven't picked up any of the other ones. I didn't think Ricard was – I think we talked about that last week. I didn't think he was going to drop below Markakis for two reasons. One is the set is picking up steam. More collectors are becoming aware of it, therefore they're picking it up. And I think a lot of people are starting to kind of do what Shep did, which is gamble on the unknown. And when you start to see these resale prices, I went back and looked at a few of like the top, the first 9 on the checklist, the first 3 weeks worth of releases. And I looked on both eBay and Sport Lots, and it's just ridiculous what those are going for now that people are going back to try to complete these sets. And I think that's why Ricard didn't have a chance to get towards that top 5. Because you have two different markets that are both jumping in, not to mention just, player and team collectors as well.
Yeah. And so I did a little interesting experiment. So I went and I pulled the full checklist of the first 42 cards that have come out so far, looked at all the print runs, totaled them up. They've printed for Topps Living so far through the 42 cards, 356,565 cards. Now, if Topps were to sell these for $7.99 a piece, which isn't always the case because you can get them in a 3-card set for about $5 a piece. But just call it $7.99 a piece. You're talking that's a retail income to Topps of $2.85 million so far this year, just on the Living product alone.
Yeah, if anybody told me that I could just run a print company and just start stamping out cards like that'd be great. Just 2.85 million in the bank, that'd be super nice. But no, I like what they've done so far this year. The art works well, and it seems to be working for them with Topps Now and Topps Living now. So
and my thing is if some of that money goes to them to be to pay for the license, because we're going to talk about that later, but the expense of that, then I'm all more for it. I love the look of the cards we talked about last week. Continuing the set, if it's going to be the same design or they're going to change year to year, but it's a good looking set. They're cool cards. The stock is awesome. and it just kind of gives you that nice little throwback, to a good year of Topps cards.
I don't mind. Yeah, we talked about it. We'll talk about it again about Topps literally being, in a position to print money, because that's all those are. They're just printing dollar bill after dollar bill, whether it's at $5, $8, or more. I don't mind as a collector as long as it's a good product. So when I got the Matt Olson one a few weeks ago, now the Ricky Henderson, I like the stock. It's a solid looking card. The back, for again anybody watching, it looks just like a 1953. Now it's normal size, which is nice. I think the 53s were still a little bit bigger. Like the 52s were considerably bigger than normal and standard size. But it's a good looking card. Artwork's fantastic. Topps could make $1 billion off this. I wouldn't care as long as it's a solid product. And I think that's what most collectors are looking for, whether you're doing it for personal collection or whether you're doing it for resale value, whether it's an immediate return or long-term return.
All right, and also last week we had 2018 Leaf Metal U.S. Army came out, and as well as the Father's Day packs released, and I did see some good stuff coming out of there. It looked like they didn't maybe make as much of it this year, but some of the cards I saw had some nice swatches and some good autos in there, and they always have a fun design to some of the parallels are a really nice design. Gonna hop in real quick. There isn't a ton that hopped off the presses, or it's gonna hop off the presses this week. Topps Living will lead off with that from now and through next Wednesday. Card number 43, Juan Soto, outfielder. It's his rookie card of the Washington Nationals. Card number 44, Bartolo Colon. He's the first Texas Ranger. And then,
just to stop you real quick, he's also the first to show the full figure of a player. I think it shows him from the knees up. If for anybody that's looked over the 45 cards now, again, going back to the Ricky Henderson, as you noticed, it shows from the collar line up. And, if you look through the entire 45 card release thus far, I don't even think they really start to get down to the chest line on any player. So it's really just a face pick. And that was the first thing that jumped out at me when I saw the Cologne, was that, they're showing his full body for whatever reason. Obviously, you can insert your overweight joke here because that's what he's become. I don't know if that was their intent, or to me, it was a really nice picture. I hope that they do a few more along the way as just opposed to a profile pic. But sorry to cut you off, Jeff.
Oh no, that's okay. That's got a good observation. I missed card number 45, Brad Peacock of the Houston Astros, and I already went and picked up my Juan Soto. I know he's probably going to be. I don't know if he's going to chase down Acuna. I think Acuna was in the 46,000 range. But the top 4 print runs have all been rookies, which I find quite interesting.
I thought Soto was kind of a questionable. I know he's hot right now. As you can see with each release, you have Ohtani or you have Harper. You have Jackie Robinson last week. You had one driving force with 2 secondary guys, whether it be a rookie. I know Soto's hot right now. I don't know if his star. I mean, he's only been up since May 20th. So literally he's been up for 30 days. I know he's 19. I know he's having a really hot start, but there's still no decisive answer as to whether or not he's going to finish this year out at the big league level, or whether or not he hits a slump and they end up sending him back down. I thought it was kind of interesting that they chose to go with Juan Soto so quick as the driving name behind this particular week's release.
Yeah, it seems a little suspicious that, well, not suspicious, but interesting that they were choosing him so soon, so early, when with the guidelines that they have for the program.
Yeah, who knows? We might all be shocked. Maybe he sells 25,000 next week, and
who knows?
It's possible. If Ricard is getting $5,000, 6,000 on the print run, Soto easily could be in the high teens, if not, break the 20,000 mark.
No, yeah, definitely. And did you guys check out his Topps Now card this week?
That was fantastic. We were talking about that before the show started.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened, for anybody that's not familiar, and as an A's super collector, this is a card that I might have to go out and snag just because of the novelty factor. So there was a game on May 15th between the Nationals and the Yankees that got suspended in the 6th inning due to rain. Juan Soto, 5 days later on May 20th, makes his official major league debut. So I think it was the 17th or 18th of June. They resumed play from the 6th inning on, and Juan Soto pinch hit for Matt Adams and ends up hitting a home run. So the game officially ended a couple of days ago. As of right now we're on June 20th, so I think it was like the 17th. But it's officially going to go into the Major League record books as having been completed on May 15th, 5 days before Soto's official Major League debut. So when they released that card the other day, and the wording on the front of the card says that he homered before his Major League debut, and I hadn't yet been familiar with the story, and I was like, wait a minute, what did I just read? And so the back of the card always has a story depicting what's going on the front of the card and why Topps chose that as a Topps Now moment. And when you read the back of it, it's kind of fun. And to me, this is why baseball is the greatest sport. You're just not going to get that in any of the other major sports because of the fact that, football's played outside, and they've only suspended 1 or 2 games ever. Probably, I mean, it's a very low number, I'm sure. And then, of course, hockey and basketball, if they were to suspend them due to weather, it would be before a game ever started, just because fans and players couldn't get to the arenas.
Yeah. The other thing coming out this week is some non-sport stuff, but 2018 Topps Star Wars, The Last Jedi season Series 2. You can pick up a box for about $76 per blowout. You're going to get 24 packs per box, 8 cards per pack. You get 2 hits per box. One's a guaranteed auto. Some of the autos and relics you can get in there. You can get dual or triple autos. There's a 6-person auto card. Sketch cards. There's rare BB-8 shaped sketch cards, which the sketch cards in all the non-sport are usually pretty popular. Primitive patch. You can get an auto of those as well, and 1-of-1 printing plates. It's a 100-card base set with parallels. There's blue, purple, red, bronze, silver, gold, black. Wow. Lots of them there. Printing plates, and then there are 7 insert sets to chase those cards down. Also, too, we have National Treasures, 2018 Panini National Treasures Soccer. It's $4.95 a box per blowout. You get 1 pack per box, 10 cards per pack. You get a base card, 8 auto or mem, 4 guaranteed autos, and 1 additional card that's either a parallel, auto, mem, or a dual jersey book. There's some debut signatures numbered to 99, bronze, gold, and platinum autos. Some of the first autos of some Tomorrow's Superstars is what they call them. And then there's also what they call brand logo insert, which is an ultra rare pull. So one of those that's really not a hit, but it's a really hard pull coming out. Now I know both any of us collect soccer or non-sport, but National Treasure is always hot, especially during the World Cup. I'm kind of interested to hopefully I haven't seen any breaks on these yet. It comes out on the 22nd, so on Friday. I'm going to try to find a few just to talk about next week to see what comes out. But always very interesting, and if you hit the right guy in soccer, I mean, man, you can pay for your collecting for a good few months or two.
Well, National Treasures is gorgeous. They've had baseball and football and basketball, I believe basketball, over the last few years. And despite the fact that I know there's a lot of baseball card collectors that refuse to collect the unlicensed products, National Treasures is just gorgeous. It's by far one of my personal favorites. Big patches, nice autographs, a lot of low-numbered things. So it strikes to different collectors' wants and needs. And I'm sure soccer definitely has a market out there, and I know Panini is going to put a lot of I know they've put a lot of time and money behind this with the World Cup. But I would imagine that those that do collect soccer or don't necessarily have a loyalty to any particular sport and they just collect cards that they like, I bet this is going to be a huge, huge product for the industry and Panini specifically.
Yeah, there's a local card shop here, and I was talking to the owner, and he says he has a guy that collects once every 4 years, only during the World Cup. And anything World Cup comes out, he comes in and he buys cases, and he'll drop upwards of $20,000 during this time. It's the only time he collects cards, and it's only soccer and only for the World Cup. Wow. And very interesting. And so I'm hoping to be able to maybe get a little insight on what he's broken of National Treasures. this next weekend, and report back next week, guys. Next week's gonna be huge. So our What's Brewing section, next week's releases, we have Topps Stadium Club coming out. We have 2018 Topps Inception Baseball, which I'm a little sad about. 2017-18 Panini Encased Basketball. Those encased is always really cool when you get a card that's already set up for you. 2018 Donruss Elite Football. 2017 Leaf Showcase Baseball Vault. That got pushed back. Hopefully that's going to come out. That was supposed to be out 2 weeks ago. 2018 Upper Deck Hockey Premier. And 2018 Museum Collection Baseball is coming out on the 29th.
I bet they push Museum Collection back.
I'm thinking so too.
I can't see there being 3 baseball releases. You've got Stadium Club and Inception both on Wednesday, followed by Museum, which is a higher end product. Stadium Club is definitely designed for the team and set collectors. We can get into all of them individually, but I can't see Museum Collection being dropped this particular week. It's already been pushed back a couple of times, as has Topps Inception.
Hey, and that's fine. Go ahead and push Museum back. Make sure it gets its due. But I want to go Stefan about Stadium Club and Inception here. I just got to say I've always been a Stadium Club fan back since '91. Every once in a while when I see a box of '91, I'll pick it up and open it, and I have to let it try not to get upset when all the cards are stuck together. But God, it's just such a beautiful. That first set was so beautiful, and they've done such a good job with the photography. And from what I've seen so far, it looks even as beautiful this year as it did way back in '91. So, Stefan, what do you have on Stadium Club?
So the Stadium Club and the Inception checklist were released today. More so what Tim was alluding to here, that his Royals only have 6 base cards in the, I think, 350 card set, 300 card set for Stadium Club this year.
300.
300,
yeah,
right.
300.
Which, pales in comparison to when the Dodgers have 20 and the Yankees have 20 themselves, the Cubs 15, Astros and Braves rounding out the top 5 at 14 each. The Expos even have a card, so it probably fuels your ire there a little bit.
That's okay. George Brett has a card, so I'm really excited about that.
This is true.
Gives you more money to spend on the parallels is all.
Yeah. That's one way of thinking of it.
The photography is great. I saw the Clayton Kershaw.
And
it's like over the batter's shoulder, showing him pitching the ball to him. And that's the beauty of Stadium Club. Is we've talked in the past about these stock photos. I think we mentioned Cespedes from like 2013 and Tony Pena, where they just kept using the same photo, and sometimes they zoom in, sometimes they zoom out. And the Stadium Club is such a unique set that for any team player or set collector, it's fun because they're different pictures that you're not going to get in Heritage, which are all more or less close-ups except for the action short prints, and a lot of the just basic Topps in action plays that they have. These ones are just so novel by comparison, and
they tend to be show a little bit more of the action. It's not just a crop shot from the head down or a pitcher throwing. You get a player sliding into another player, actually being able to see both players on card. It's just gorgeous photography. Love Stadium.
The Jose Canseco from last year, we mentioned our friend Tanner Jones last year. It was kind of taken through the netting during batting practice. So the joke going around last year was, because he's such a huge Jose Canseco collector, was that a picture from his private collection? Because It was kind of like, the stalker picture coming from an angle that Jose may or may not even have known that he was being photographed at that time. So I think collectors are going to have a lot of fun if they're not familiar with Stadium Club, and those of us who are and have collected it in the past, it by far, I think, ranks on most of our top 5 releases per year, at least.
And what's the breakdown on Inception? That's kind of what caught my eye the most.
So do you want to know base or hits?
Let's go on top 5 on base and hits as well. And the Royals don't have any base, I'll tell you that.
So top five, you got Yankees with 9 base, Braves with 6, Dodgers with 6, Indians with 6, Astros with 5, Brewers and Orioles tied with 5 as well. Bottom five, you've got the Reds with 2, Blue Jays 1, Giants 1, Mariners 1, Tigers 1, Royals nada. As far as autos, any guesses, guys? Top
I
five,
would imagine that the Red Sox would be in the top 5.
number 2.
I would think that the Braves might be, just because it is slightly a more prospect or youth laden product. I know the A's have, I think, 5, so they might crack the top. Or no, actually, I believe they have 6.
Nope.
So they might crack the top 5.
Just real quick, from Brent earlier, he was digging around the Stadium Club checklist, and it should be a good one. But after, he's a little perplexed, though, that in Inception, there's no Ohtani base, no Ohtani or Acuna or Torres base rookie autos, yet they're all in Stadium Club.
Can I speak to that real quick? Because
Yeah.
I was looking over the rookie. Forget what the official title of that release is. I'm going to pull it up here while we're talking. It's Rookie and Emerging Stars. So I believe the A's, for instance, had Maxwell, Fowler, Barreto, and Olsen. And they also had Blackburn. But they had a 6th guy, and that's Ryan Healy, who got traded in the offseason. So I went down the list specifically. The only other name that popped out at me was Lewis Brinson, who is a Milwaukee Brewer on the checklist but plays for the Marlins. So he and Healy both fell into that category. I may or may not have missed another name on there, but I believe Topps Inception was supposed to have been released around March or April originally, and
that would make a lot of sense.
So when you look at that, Healy, if it's an April release and you're putting this together in January, Healy's still an A, Brinson's still a Brewer. Ohtani, I may or may not have signed when they were putting that together. Acuna, Torres, Albies, all these young players, Soto, of course.
All still in the minors.
So that may be the reason for that particular, checklist, these guys not being on there. I don't know. That was just all I could gather from my best estimation.
So who has the most autos?
So for Inception, you got the Yankees naturally. For the Red Sox next, Cubs, Dodgers, and the World Series title champions, the Astros. Bottom five, you've got, let me see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Royals, Pirates, Blue Jays, Padres, and the Expos.
Outstanding. I'll have to find that one Royal and pick him up. So we want to move on to Infield Chatter, which is a hobby talk segment of the show. And a big thing popped out this week. The Topps exclusive deal with Major League Baseball. Is it real? We had a blogger, Mario Alejandro, at the Wax Heaven, produced a story and sent it out there this week, saying that he believes and he has sources that Topps has extended their exclusive deal with Major League Baseball to continue to be the sole producer of baseball cards, licensed baseball cards, for the next while. And it didn't give a date. And we spoke about this, I want to say last week. And I assumed that if they had a deal and they were going to have it in place, they're going to bring it out at the National. And he has the same assumption. Topps has had the exclusive since 2009, and they extended it again in 2013 for 7 years through 2020. So if that looks like, so Topps could have for another 7 years to 2027. Upper Deck was the last company that had a license besides Topps, and that ended in 2009. Mario said he had long conversations last week with 2 high-level executives from different companies producing multiple non-licensed Major League Baseball products. And the only 2 that I can think of that produce multiple are Panini and Leaf. He said that it's already been renewed in a handshake deal as far back as 2017. So we're talking, 6-9 months ago. And he believes the story was going to break, like I said, at the National. He mentioned Brent Williams, and we talked about this last week, the 83 auto collation issue, and Mario calls it quality control issues. I just think it's that the rookie autos are cheaper to put in products than they are the vets and all-stars, and also too, it makes those hits when you get them that much better on the secondary market and for those collectors. He also mentions the card numbering here that we talked before about awful collation of their product, and I kind of want to disagree a little bit there. Because I opened a jumbo and 2 hobby and built 2 complete sets. and had almost enough for a third. And I pulled both the Acuna and Torres short prints, which I did complain about in episode 0 about how I didn't like it. But both of them, each of those guys are falling per case. So if you bought a case, you're going to get both of them. I was just lucky enough to get the right boxes, I guess. He says production's way up this year due to the high cost of the license. He doesn't mention the cost of the license, and I don't think that's public knowledge. I tried to find it, but didn't see that anywhere. Per Brent Williams, his heritage was up 30% this year, and Finest is up 50%. Part of that is that Topps is a company that prints to order. So when they send out the pre-orders, if last year they only had people that wanted X number of cases, then that's what they made this year. They had more people interested because of the amazing year of rookies we had last year with Judge and Bellinger and all those guys, and then this year with the Ohtani hype, that definitely probably led to more pre-orders and building up that production. He said a source told him that in 91 the NFL license was $200,000 a year, and now that license is $15 million. But baseball is not football, and the NFL does their business completely different than Major League Baseball. So we can assume that it's probably, a few, maybe $10 million, $15, $20 million. I'm not sure, but it's going to be up there. And we're going to talk later about these exclusive licenses. I'm working on a kind of a special report for us and what that does to products and secondary and to the consumer, which is the collectors, and how we deal with them having exclusives. Also, he says Topps now in the Topps Living are nonstop online products. That's what he calls them, and they're just there basically to print money. And as we talked earlier, it's a good thing if that license is so expensive that they can turn around and in a few months make $2.85 million printing cards that people want, that you look at the secondary market, and after the week closes, that card you bought for $8 is now selling on average for $15, $16, if not more. Some of them are going for, I think, like Reese Hoskins, for example, he's up to $60. The Nick Markakis is like $300 or $400 card for Nick Markakis. So it's one of those things, that's out there. He assumes Ohtani is going to become Kerry Wood or Hideo Nomo, and it's going to be disastrous on the secondary market for their products. But that could happen to anybody. I mean, Judge, Trout, Harper, any of the big guys that you're going to collect, that's going to kill any market or any rookie that comes up and does really well in the first 2 years and fails year 4 and 5. That's going to kill the value of that year's product. It always happens. But then you have that year where maybe the guy wasn't awesome as rookie or second year, but that 3rd and 4th year, he takes off like a Mookie Betts, and now everybody's trying to chase that product down. At the end, he says he doesn't fault Topps at all. But throughout the article, he kind of blames them for their bad production and what they're doing. He calls Leaf the biggest loser in all of this exclusiveness. And when Brian Leaf, Brian Gray, who's Leaf's CEO, says he would never want to sign an exclusive deal or have a license, he said that multiple times before, that he would never have a deal with the league because of how much it costs and how much it would take away from his product. So, he goes on to say, like, Topps is lazy with no competition and no competitors in sight. But he likes Topps Chrome and Finest, and but doesn't like Flagship. So, I agree with some of this stuff. I want to talk about it. He doesn't bring up Panini's exclusive deals with basketball and football, or Upper Deck's exclusive with hockey. I just want to know your guys' kind of thoughts on Topps having this exclusive, and if you got a chance to read the article and what you think. No, I agree with some of the points, but I just kind of wanted to be devil's advocate and point out, like, it kind of goes back and forth, and if you don't like Flagship, fine, that's fine. You don't like Flagship, collect your Museum, collect your Bowman, collect your Finest, collect your Chrome, that's okay. But just because you don't like their main product that they put out doesn't mean you can't like what they produce altogether, or that they have this exclusive, because I believe that they do a good job, and I believe that, yeah, they are lazy in some aspects, but the leagues are the one dictating that these exclusives are out there, because if they wanted the competition there, they would put it out there and make the money. But what do you guys think?
It's easier for them just to sign a contract with Topps or Panini or whomever and call it a day. You'll collect your $20 million, any royalties that may or may not be a part of that contract. Let's get one thing straight. I don't think anybody in this world will ever hand Brian Gray an exclusive license, so we don't have to be concerned about what he decides he thinks. I mean, I like a lot of Leaf's products, Leaf Metal, Leaf Pearl is fantastic, but ultimately, at the end of the day, Leaf has a lot to learn about business in general. Honestly, creating more product can create more inventory. It's actually not a good thing for business. So when I like Mario, he and I have had some good conversations on Twitter, but to suggest that you're creating more product in order to pay for your bills essentially is really a bad business model to begin with. I don't think that it's still kind of come down to supply and demand. When Topps Living is all said and done by the end of this fiscal year, at the pace that they're on, they're probably going to end up having about a $5 million, gross revenue before their costs. They probably don't have a whole ton of costs. Yeah, you have shipping and printing overhead, and of course, probably very little personnel overhead. I would imagine that their net profit's got to be somewhere in the 70 to 80 percentile on Topps Living specifically. If that holds true for Topps now, running a quick number right now, they've ran 342 cards so far for this year. And if you say that the average print runs, I don't know if you guys want to disagree, I would say around 300 just to be safe. Some are higher, some are in the 150s. 300 is a round number. That's what I used. And I multiplied that by $5 per card. Now we know Topps ships each card for $9.99, but there's a lot of people like Twins Jake at Twins Jake on Twitter that buy tons of this stuff. And we've reached out to him possibly about having him on next week's podcast. But if you do that math, 342 times 300 times $5, it's coming out to right at $500,000 so far. Season's more or less half over. Let's extrapolate that times 2. You're probably looking at about $1 million, $1.2 million in gross profits. So just on their Topps Now and Topps Living, you're probably in the $6 to $6.5 million range by the year's end.
Yeah.
So right then and there, you've already paid for 33% of a license just on that. You haven't touched anything. I would imagine the 3 flagship releases, Series 1, Series 2, and Update, probably are going to create enough revenue to probably pay for at least half of what's left over. And so at the end of the day, Topps is going to be able to cover that $20 million if they operate correctly, probably with ease. And so I would imagine Topps is extremely profitable. Yeah, so I wouldn't think that creating more is what they need to do or is their intent. Again, it's just supply and demand. So I don't know what your thoughts are on just those points that he had.
Well, yeah, one of the things is I've been looking through this and I want to have kind of a special episode when we talk about these exclusives coming up later this summer. But there's been a big bump because they have to produce so many products. Just to kind of give you an idea, last year Panini, the number was I think 40 or 41 NFL products, and that's a huge number. That's a lot of releases. When you think the football season's 17 weeks long, some of the releases came out in April and they ran through I think February was the last release or March for Panini football for 17. But it's one of those things is that they have to meet that because they guarantee that they're going to hit that number when they have these exclusives. And like we said, if Topps needs to do the Topps Now and the Topps Living have kind of taken a life of their own. And I don't look at it as like, yeah, they are printing cash, but they're printing quality product that people like. If you go to your first game and they have to do a Topps Now card, and you're a collector, you're going to grab that. If you went to that game, like I picked a Topps Now card up for the Royals the day my son was born, and I also bought a game used ball from that game, and so he can have that and say, hey, this game, this is a card that was a highlight from the game of this when this ball was used. I have cards for my wedding day that just to kind of commemorate a special day. I know the Topps Living I think is a great idea, and kind of wish I would have hopped on the first few weeks. And looking back, you see that in the prices, but it's like we've talked about that tonight, how good of a set that is. Stefan, what are your thoughts?
I have a few disagreements, and I agree with most of it. It would be nice if the leagues would share the licenses. I love Panini products. Leaf, like Ben was saying, they have some great looking products. Personally, I loved is it 13 or 14 Leaf Trinity, the baseball set. Um, but if they're not going to, Topps is a decent company to run it. I might have my disagreements with some of the products they release and some of the players and how they break down all the teams and whatnot. But with what he said, it would make sense that they had announced that at the National. They kind of use that as their broadcast off for the rest of the year and through into the next year. To his point with Ohtani's injury, I mean, at the same time, yeah, he could go down and be out until 2020, but he could also flip it around and turn out to be the next Rick Ankiel, where he becomes a stellar outfielder. So it's just one of those that we kind of have to wait and see with his injury.
Hey, Rick Ankiel was stellar.
Hey man, from what he was and to where he came back from.
Exactly.
Yeah, and he was a decent outfielder with some power and some pop and that bat. And from being a pitcher that couldn't throw.
I may have to Google stellar just so that we all can.
And he was as good as Interstellar. Okay, he was as good as the movie Interstellar, I think is what he meant to say.
I need to go get some Pepto-Bismol because
I'll shoot you a few of his outfield putouts that just his defense-wise.
I was rooting for him to find his groove, but he's not Stella. Come on now.
You root for the A's, so I mean,
what do I know about
the value of talent?
I agree. Okay.
There was one point of contention that I have when it comes to exclusivities. Okay, and monopolies in general, and trading cards are an oligopoly at best. I mean, that's what it is. If you just consider the fact that there's a finite amount of a small group of companies that produce. You got Topps, you got Panini and Upper Deck and Leaf, and then you have these other companies like Rise and stuff that kind of pop up every so often. But really, unless I'm mistaken and miss somebody, there's really only the main four, right? I mean, is that it? Topps, Panini, Upper Deck, and Leaf.
There's Onyx, but
there's Cryptozoic and Rittenhouse. I don't know if they're still around for non-sports.
Right.
Cryptozoic's huge. I mean, but when you look at exclusive licenses, and yes, Topps can be lazy, and we can pick apart their quality control. There's no excuse for errors on checklists when you're missing not one, but two numbers. Come on, you're better than that. But in the world of economics, you have direct competition and you have indirect competition, right? You have Starbucks and then you have other companies that also produce gourmet coffee. That's your direct competition. Your indirect competition is McDonald's because they also sell coffee, as does Denny's, as does your home. I mean, I can go make myself a cup of coffee right now, thus taking $5 away from Starbucks potentially. That's the indirect competition. So as collectors, we all have to ask ourselves a question. Are we baseball card collectors or are we trading card collectors? If you want a good product, there are plenty of other options outside of Topps. Yes, you're all of a sudden a hockey collector or soccer or basketball or football. There's plenty of other options. There's a ton of great cards that Cryptozoic makes. Okay, but now you're a non-sports collector. So there's no direct competition per se, because I mean, really, there is. Panini makes their own, as does Leaf, their own unlicensed baseball cards. It really comes down to the question of, do I need that logo? I don't necessarily need the logo personally, but that is a question that each of us as collectors are going to have to ask. So to say that, well, it's going to make them lazy, yeah, probably to a certain degree. But
I have to one point there about the competition and the laziness, and I agree with all that. One of the biggest things with this is that I believe there is room for sharing the license.
Sure, absolutely.
And personally, it's hard for me to collect. I don't seek out cards without my team's logo on it, just because I feel like I'm opening in post serial from the 1980s.
Sure.
Because that's how I got those Jimmy Dean cards or the bazooka, like some of those cards would come and they don't have. I might ask my mom, like, where's the KC logo on this George Brett hat? To me, it looked like he was wearing like a fake jersey and hat, and he was just, it didn't make sense. It didn't make me like super excited to have that card. But the one thing I can say is we talked about a new release coming out next week with Top Stadium Club, and if anybody remembers, that came out in '91. what happened in 1989? What came out to kind of drive Topps to come out with Topps Stadium Club?
Upper Deck.
Upper Deck.
Company or
Yeah, right.
heard of them.
Yeah, so Upper Deck came out and they had those foil packs, and they were like $1 a pack, and we're talking Topps was selling for 40 cents a pack, and now you're talking to spending $1. And Topps came out Stadium Club. They came out that glossy card, a little bit thicker stock, and in those full bleed photos, and like it was like a game changer. And we had Leaf Ultra came out. It made all these companies get more creative and think beyond what they had been doing. And that's how we got, into jersey relic cards and autograph cards, and we got different designs and acetate cards, and all of that stuff drove people to make cards better, to make people come to their company. And I think the biggest reason why we have exclusivity in Major League Baseball is that Topps was not paying, Upper Deck was not paying their money back to the licensees. Or the licensors. So the people that had the license, Major League Baseball and the Players Union, Upper Deck was not coming through on their behalf and paying back because they were having some money troubles of their own. And when they didn't do that, Topps came and said, "Hey, we can take care of you. We've made, we're always making our payments. Let us have the exclusive license like we did pre-1981 when they dominated the card market."
Sure.
And they were then forced to let Fleer and Donruss come in 81 and continue that competition. And yeah, they came out some great products, but they just never really super competed. I believe after a few years, you kind of saw what happened. I think to Fleef and Donruss cards kind of after the mid 80s fell apart. To me, they did have some nice additions going forward as secondary products like Ultra, but it's one of those things like I would love to have a second baseball product, company making baseball cards, a second one making football. God, I miss Topps Chrome football. That was awesome. I miss having a second basketball company. And, it's just one of those things that even if they shared the license and they, instead of making 40 products a year each for baseball, football, and basketball, think what they could do if they only had to make 20. Think if they could take all of those autos and all of those relics, and instead of trying to spread them out over 40, then they could spread them out over 20 and how deeper and thicker and more amazing that those cards and those boxes would be. And collectors would be more in love with their product and want more of that product every year.
What if you did an 80-20 split where Topps produces 32 baseball products and 8 football products, and Panini does 32 football and 8 baseball? You could easily split it to where it's not an even 50-50 and still give the collectors enough of a variety. I mean, I think that's what ultimately we're after. From Topps' perspective, and we're not in the room, so we don't know what Topps and MLB talk about. If MLB throws out the number 20 and Topps is like, done, okay, cool. You're Major League Baseball. You've got this whole other league to worry about. As long as you're getting your licensing fees and any potential royalties, and subsequently your players are as well, who cares? Why would you care about that if you're Major League Baseball? You throw your number out there, Topps meets it. Okay, we're not going to shop this around. We're not going to waste resources on this because, like you said, Shep, we don't know what Upper Deck or Panini or Leaf are equipped with. You want to dance with that devil, you get into bed with them, and all of a sudden now they decide to default on their payments, and that's the whole reason for these exclusive licenses to begin with. Is the trust went away.
I think the way that Panini or Leaf or any of the other major companies could have an in is to bargain with the Players Association and say, hey, look, we've been with you. Panini's been producing products since like 2014 or so. No missed payments. We've represented your products across all of these lines. Here's what all we've done. Can you make a push to the league for us?
Yeah, no, it's quite possible, and it's difficult to say again because we're at an extreme disadvantage because we don't know anything as far as those conversations. We're just 3 guys, and hobby community as a whole, we don't have that information accessible, so we don't know. We don't know Major League Baseball's intent and desire. We just know that Topps is most likely going to extend this license probably till 2027. or 4 or 5 years with maybe a couple of option years. Okay, then that means we better buckle on, get on this bus and drive down the highway, or look to our indirect competitors and switch sports. Hell, you can switch hobbies. Funko Pops are popular, and comic book collecting is still there. Nothing says we have to be sports card collectors. We choose to, and that's fine. But there's plenty of other competition out there. There's plenty of things you can collect outside. I mean, we could all be coin collectors. Whatever our choices are, we choose to come back to collect baseball cards, and by doing so, we're putting money either directly or indirectly into Topps pockets, depending on how we buy our cards, whether it's from directly from Topps, as in the Topps Now and Living, and or distributors or local card shops, or in the secondary market like eBay and other websites.
Yep.
As in the Topps Now and Living.
Crap.
No, definitely.
There was one. Oh, sorry. There was one product that we hadn't talked about yet. I don't know if you were going to get to the treasure coins or not.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
That was a kind of a lost product. We talked about it briefly. I had reached out because it was supposed to be released in May, and it was, I think it's one card a pack, if I'm not mistaken, and 30 packs in a box, or 24 packs in a box maybe. And then they pushed it back to June, and I was kind of asking about it. There was only one Oakland A on the checklist. It was not a very big checklist. I think all teams.
It's one player per team.
Per team, yeah.
Is that what it was? So there were only 30 cards, right?
Correct.
And I believe there were 3 cards total. I think there was a bronze, a silver, and a gold.
Correct. And the gold's a really hard find. They're also going to have treasure coins, I believe. And I don't know if those are the gold or if there's a fourth coin,
like a platinum, maybe.
Yeah.
It was one of those ones where I don't think that it was going to get a whole lot of. You guys remember the Topps chips from
12 or 13?
12 or 13. They were little poker chips, and I've got them out in my garage. They're not even with my ace cards because I can't figure out a way. I've got them in a sleeve, but they're just kind of laying on my desk in the garage because I don't know how to put them in a binder without them falling out. They were by far and away a stupid product. But without getting onto that, the treasure coin, I happen to be looking just 2018 Chris Davis to see the newly listed cards to see if there were any parallels. And lo and behold, there was the treasure coin. There was actually 2 of them listed. So I just did a broad search. If you type 2018 treasure coins into eBay, right now there's a little over 100 current listings. Some of the players are selling for considerably less. Mike Trout, of course, and probably some of those, Bryce Harper probably are selling into the 30s and $50s range. For people watching on YouTube, this is the Chris Davis. I don't know how well. I'm going to try to tilt it a little bit so that
I like his afro.
Picks up okay.
Right.
I do apologize, and I'll flip it over. And it's got a really nice, brief description of him on the back. And so they're a nice thick card stock, about your average size of a relic. It is. You'll notice for those watching that the coin is a little tilted. You have no option of trying to straighten that out. I did try. It is in there really good, which is a good thing. So that coin doesn't fall out. I paid $10 for Chris Davis. I imagine probably 20 or so of the cards can probably be had for that range, give or take $1 or $2. Probably be a small portion of them that'll probably, again, jump above that. Trout being the most obvious.
And I know they're coming out with a booklet to put them in. The one of the creators of this was on the Beckett podcast, the Fat Packs, a couple weeks ago, and it's going to be. He said it was similar to what the quarter book was like with all the different states.
They're a neat card. It's a neat relic. I would definitely buy it again next year. I would definitely encourage you, if you're a player collector, a team collector, to jump on your favorite player or favorite team's representative.
Yeah.
It's weird because, again, I was looking for it in May and it wasn't coming out. And then I was told on Twitter that, they pushed it back to June. Not June 1st or 10th. It was just June.
Yeah.
And now all of a sudden it was here and it kind of populated. And I bought that card a week ago and there's still only just barely over 100 listings. I don't know. I mean, anybody out there listening, if your guy's available, your team is available, get him if he's available now. because I don't know how much of this stuff's actually going to hit the market. I think this is a dead product.
Yeah, per their interview, they were going to be in, I think, a lot of the stadiums as well. So if you go out and see your favorite team, check out the team shop and see if you can find them there. They are cool. I definitely think they were supposed to be out. Major League Baseball, when they signed the deal, wanted them to be out opening day, and that's why they're not going to be at all the stadiums. But they had some issues with the minting of all of the coins and making sure that they were quality. The guy that interviewed one of the backers of this, he really wanted to put out a good product and put a good foot forward this first year. And I think they have. I think it sounded like they were going to try to do something special at All-Star Weekend this year in Washington, D.C., where you basically play a treasure hunt and you have to go find certain clues and stuff to win these specialty coins, which is really cool. I want to move us on tonight. I know we talked about keeping it to an hour. Tonight we were going to probably go a little over that, and that's fine because I think we have some good topics coming up. One being tomorrow night, the NBA draft, 2018 NBA draft. Will be on ESPN. I wanted to cover the top 10 players to look for. My Sacramento Kings, love them to death. Been a huge fan since I was little. Picking number 2. Let's hope they don't screw this up this year. And I don't think that they can. Let's go Vlade. Let's have a party and do well. But the 10 players to look at. First off, you have DeAndre Ayton the center out of Arizona. Looks to be probably one of the game changers in this draft. Let's just hope he's not to beat out of UConn a few years ago for the Grizzlies. But Luka Doncic out of Real Madrid, 19-year-old kid's been playing pro ball since he was like 15 or 16. Guard, can shoot it, scored up. You have Muhammad Bamba, the center out of Texas. Jaren Jackson, center out of Michigan State. Marvin Bagley III, he's kind of a power forward center out of Duke. Michael Porter Jr., the forward out of Missouri that played, I think, a whole 10 minutes this year. Wendell Carter, center out of Duke. Trae Young, the guard out of Oklahoma. A slighted build, can shoot it. A little turnover prone, I think. And I think he was just on a bad Oklahoma team, and they let him just do what he wanted to. People are starting to compare him to Steph Curry. I don't believe he has the same game that Steph has, just because he shoots the three and makes it some of the time when he's little. I think that's the easy, lazy comparison. Kevin Knox, forward out of Kentucky. And then guard Colin Sexton out of Alabama. Kind of like the top 10 if you look at all the different draft boards, ESPN, SI, you go on to NBAmockdraft.com. Out of these 10, Ayton and Doncic would probably be the two best and most collectible. Bagley and Porter and Trae Young probably are going to have some of the biggest hype around them, as well as the next 5 to go out and collect. Lately the big man has not been super collectible in basketball. It's become a shooters league, a scorers league. And I don't know if we have, besides Doncic and maybe Young, if there's a real true scorer here. We don't know much about Porter Jr.
Bagley's going to be a 20 to 22 right off the bat. I don't care where he goes. He's gonna score 20 to 22 points per game. He's defensively challenged a little bit, and I think that's going to be why some teams. I think he'd be a perfect fit for the Sacramento Kings, although he does duplicate a little bit of what they have. But you take best player available. Yeah, Doncic is going to be probably their pick or the best choice. He fills a need for them. But as far as collecting goes, I don't know. Because of him coming from the European market, I don't know if his collectability will be quite as high as some of the domestic players.
There's a couple I'm going to call the Kuzma effect, or even Donovan Mitchell, who were mid to late first round picks that I think could have the same effect in the hobby and also in the league this next year. One is guard Jerome Robinson out of Boston College. Kid can score it, put up points, and he's projected right now mid to late first round. And I believe if he goes in the right situation, like Mitchell or Kuzma, and he gets the playing time, he could do that. Also, we have a white guy here, a guard Kevin Huerter out of Maryland, favorite of Scott Van Pelt. But this kid has moved up the boards. I think last time I saw he was in the late lottery, like 13, 14 there, and then also. So 12 or 13 in the lottery, and as low as I think 18 Kid 6'7" can also score, has some range, and also can play a little D. And so a lot of teams have been hyped on him. Those are two guys I would look at maybe that aren't as what you would say the top of the class, but ones you might want to try to pick up in some early products and see and set them aside, because I have a feeling they could be a good value later as the season gets going. The first couple products, NBA products that come out every year, you're going to have Panini contenders draft picks that comes out in September, so that's a month before they even report. So those are going to be college uniforms, but usually they're going to have a good selection there, and also on Colorados, I believe. Then you have your first entry-level product, Panini Hoops, comes out in October. That usually launches like week of the season. Donruss basketball in November. Panini Prism, which is always huge, and get those silvers. The cards you want to pull out of there, those come out in November and December. Those are the first 4 sets that really come out. And then after that, then you're going to have National Treasures later in the year. And the other 40 or other 35 releases they have, but those are the early ones you're going to want to get in. And usually those 4 right there are pretty collector friendly as far as, the Prism basketball usually release day. I would say if you're going to buy it that day, get a box or 2 and then open one and sit on one, because you probably make your money back twice over if it's the right rookie class within a month. And those are going to be affordable products for you to get in and get, your autos at a low cost, and maybe be able to turn around and buy some more product later in the 2018-19 season. Any thoughts there, guys, on collecting basketball?
Yeah, this NBA draft, I believe, is going to be extremely collector friendly, just overall. I don't think that – I think when all is said and done, I don't think there's really going to be Hall of Famers coming out of this particular draft class. There might be 1 or 2 that have, superstar careers. But I honestly think if you're a collector and you pull anybody that's a top 15, 20 pick, it's going to be good value, because you saw what last year with Donovan Mitchell. You once in a while, a Kawhi Leonard falls to 16 type range. You just don't see that very often. This is going to be the anti-2000 draft. The 2000 draft had Kenyon Martin at number 1, followed by Stromile Swift, Darius Miles, Marcus Fizer, Mike Miller, DeMar Johnson, Chris Mim. I mean, who? We all familiar with the names, but I was reading an article the other day where it broke down the top pick and whether or not they were the best pick and who the best pick was. And for the year 2000, it was Michael Redd, who had a couple great years with Milwaukee, and his knees inevitably.
Second-round pick, by the way.
Yeah, gave up on him, and it's a horrible draft. The 2018 draft, I think, is going to be the antithesis of that. What you're going to see is, I mean, if you're, let's say Michael Porter falls to the Knicks or somewhere, Bulls at 7, somewhere in there, and you pull a Michael Porter out of a product, are you going to be upset? No, he might be the best player in this draft. And I think you're going to see that kind of up and down, especially amongst the top 10. Outside of maybe DeAndre Ayton at number 1, I think picks 2 through 10 very well could be interchangeable, especially from a collector perspective. I mean, it's just my opinion, but
yeah, this draft reminds me of '96 when Iverson went 1, Camby 2, Sharif Abdul-Rahim 3, Steph Marbury went 4, Ray Allen 5, Antoine Walker 6, rest in peace Lorenzen Wright at 7, Kerry Kittles 8. You had a bust here, Samari Walker and Eric Dampier, Todd Fuller, but later on you had 13. You had some guy named Kobe Bryant at 14, Peja Stojakovic at 15, Steve Nash at 17, Jermaine O'Neal. I remember that draft. I didn't want them to take Peja. I wanted them to take John Wallace. Maybe I wasn't so bright then.
Wallace was a solid prospect, and that speaks to the nature of collecting in general.
Yeah. You also had you had Big Z. Zydrunas Ilgauskas went 20. Derek Fisher went 24. Let's see. You also had who was it? There was one other guy here. Oh yeah, you know what? And he was never a super collector, but a really good player. Malik Rose was in the second round of this draft. You look back at the 1996 draft, and I mean, you look. Travis Knight was the last pick of the first round. He played 7 years in the NBA. Othello Harrington was the first pick of the second round, played 12 years. Jeff McGinnis played 11. Malik Rose was 13. Shandon Anderson was towards the end of the second round, played 10 years. I think this draft is very reminiscent of the '96 draft, where you think there's a couple of really big stars, and everybody else you're not sure they're, but you think though. I think this class could be like this and be very, very collectible.
Yeah, if you're expecting like a 2003, which obviously had the infamous class of LeBron and Wade and Anthony and Bosch, this isn't, in my opinion. I could be wrong. This is not that draft. I think '96 is a very good comparison. This is going to be I mean, you're literally going to pull an autograph out of the pack and go, hey, all right, cool.
Yeah,
this could work. And if you hold on to it for 2 or 3 seasons until that player comes, kind of into his own, I think you might be pleasantly surprised. If I honestly believe, if this checklist on an autograph checklist goes 30, 40 players deep, you'll be pretty much okay with whomever you get.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just happy that for like the first time in 10, 15 years, I don't have to worry about, are we getting the number 1 pick? Are we getting the number 2 pick? We finally made the playoffs this year, so who knows?
That being the Minnesota Timberwolves, because he's a Minnesota honk. Just want to make sure everybody out there knows,
Oh, they know.
Oh yeah, I mean,
don't ask Ben about Kawhi Leonard. He cried before the show when we talked about it, so I won't bring it up again. I want to move on. This is kind of a topic, and I went in a little detail here on about 5 or 6 players, but what baseball player is more collectible for the long haul and why? The guys I've listed here: Mike Trout, Bryce Harper, Aaron Judge, Chris Bryant, Mookie Betts, Carlos Correa, and Nolan Arenado. And I'm going to go over some quick pricing I pulled up on recent sales of some important cards, and cards I think that, if you were going to, if you're not a PC guy, but you want to have a nice card of this guy, there's a few here, and just kind of your thoughts on who's more collectible and why, and where you would go with this. So first of all, you have Mike Trout, his Bowman Chrome Auto from 2009, a 9.5 grade with a 10 auto, currently sold for $12,250. I didn't see any raw. There were a few others that were in that price range. So that's probably out of most collectors' budgets. So then you think, what's the next best card you want of a player? And for the average collector, I would say it's the Topps rookie card that you'd want. If you look throughout the history, if you're going to collect a guy or that baseball collectors go after, it's their first Topps card. That's the one that, they put aside, and it's always shown as, and I think it goes back to when we were all young collectors. If you flipped over again, we're going to get back to the Stadium Club's a theme that runs throughout. They had the picture of their first Topps card, and they had all those darn debut sets that I never saw as a kid and really frustrated me, or it was really cool when the Stadium Club card was on the back, and you're like, oh, so I got the card of the guy right here in my hand. How did that happen? Loved it. But Topps 2011 Topps update. A graded 10 was sold for $589. A 9.5 sold for $400. A raw sold for $350. You look, Bryce Harper, 2011 Bowman Chrome Auto. It was a 9.510. Sold. There's a few different sales, but it ranged from $12.75 up to $14.75. I didn't see any raws of that either. In 2012, his Topps rookie card came out in Series 2, but it was a short print card, 661. Now, it's him batting left-handed, and a 10 of that goes from anywhere from $850, which was with some bids, up to $1,500, which was I buy it now. But there were a handful of prices, but a lot of them were in the $1,000 range. No raw cards I saw. It's a very hard pull. He has some additional cards that are in the factory sets, one called Leg Up, one called Yelling. A raw leg up runs you about $13.50. A graded 10 of that's going to run you about $28. So basically, you're just paying for the grading at that point in time. The Yelling one where he's at second base and he's cheering and screaming. Raw runs you $18, where a graded 10 runs you $33. But he also has the luxury of being in Series 2, so he has a Bowman Chrome or a Topps Chrome rookie. A raw runs about $14, where a graded at 10 is going to run you about $86. So those right off the bat, those two guys there are probably two of the most, I guess, highly collectible guys in baseball right now. You look at Aaron Judge and his 13 Bowman Chrome Auto. And I think this has come down a little bit over. It got hyped up last year big time, and he was doing his thing as a rookie, and People are all about him now. It's on to Ohtani, but pristine 10 went for his Bowman Chrome from 13 went for 1225. A 9.5 went for 720. And I sold my raw for around that neighborhood. I didn't see any raws up for that had sold recently, but his Series 1 tops from last year is going to run raw is going to run about $5. But a 9.10, or I'm sorry, a 9.5 to a 10 is going to run in about the $20 to $30 range. His chromes are going to run anywhere from a raw at 16 up to about $55 for a 10. For $10 or for $55 for his graded 10. Chris Bryant is a fun character here because he's got the 13 Bowman Chrome or Bowman Draft Chrome Auto, which was released in 14 products, and then he has the Bowman Chrome from 14, which says first Bowman on it. What do you think sells at a higher price, the 13 Draft or the 14 Bowman?
I from what I'd seen, 13, just because it is the first card.
But it doesn't say first.
Of course it doesn't. That's Top's handiwork. But no,
that was the only.
Good.
That was the only year they didn't put first Bowman on the cards because that's Judge's card, and it's weird how that was the first year that they didn't put that on there, and this whole thing happened with Bryant. What do you think? What do you think, Ben?
You know, if it was me as a player collector of Chris Bryant, as a team collector of the Chicago Cubs, or just as a Bowman collector of the first, it's got to be 13. It's the first. You know, I know we can talk about rookie cup cards and what constitutes as a rookie card. That might be a topic we get into very soon because there's different definitions of Bowman versus Tops and et cetera. And I suppose a lot of that, I mean, you're never going to get a definitive answer. It really depends on who you ask. And a lot of times their collecting motivations will determine their bias. For me personally, which one came first? I mean, 2013. Okay. That's it. Even if the 2014 one reflects differently, if I was after one and I had the resources and the wherewithal to pursue one, 2013 would be my first option, but then it might come down to finances too. I mean, if 2014 is a little bit more affordable and I can access one, you know, but yeah, if all things were equal, same price, same cost, same availability, I'd prefer 2013.
So 13 Bowman Draft Chrome Auto, 9.5, 10, going for about $1,000. The 14 Bowman Chrome, you can buy two for the same price as that 13. They're going for $300 to $400, and that's still a great value. It's a great card, early card of Bryant autograph. Nice. His Series 2 from 2015 Tops. Raw's going for 10, up as high as 25 for a graded. Raw's $10, and a graded 10's going for around 25. You can get his Chrome, his Tops Chrome that year, a Raw for about 15, and a graded 10 for around 40. I put Mookie Betts on here because he's having a good season. And 2 years ago, he had a really good season as well. And his card prices have like shot up big time. And right now, a Bowman Chrome Auto from 2014, 9.510 is going to run you in the neighborhood about $430. But Raw, the last two Raw sold for $400. So you're telling me I can spend $30 more and I can get it graded? Done. But that's just telling you where his market's going when the Raws are selling as much as graded cards. Now, some of these were auctions, and some of them are buy it nows, and I understand that. But if you buy it now, you have the card and you can go get it graded. That $30 you would have spent to buy a graded one, you can spend to get it the raw one graded. But I was just really surprised in that his update cards from 2014, a raw selling for around $30, and a graded 10 is selling for in the neighborhood of $75. But really, what was crazy, his Bowman or his Tops Chrome that year, they had, and I guess they must have done 14 Tops up Chrome update because he was the first one that had an update that actually had a Tops Chrome card. But the raw is going from $56 to $75, and you had a graded 10 going for $182. Yeah, and at the end of last year, you probably could have gotten those cards for 30% of the price that they are now.
I'm sure.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say that you threw out 7 names of who would be nice long-term investments. And unfortunately, yeah, I think we'd all want to jump on a Trout just because we can. I sold the update Harper rookie card auto a couple years back for a couple $100. I wish I had hung on to it, but unfortunately, we're always in a position. Sometimes finances dictate decisions, and I had to sell it at that time. Unfortunately, I wish I didn't have to. But Mookie Betts was going to be the one I was going to choose out of that list of 7, and the reason being is before you started naming prices, I would have assumed that his might have been the most under the radar. I don't think Aaron Judge is going to hold his value long term. I really don't. I think he'll have a peak of 5 or 6 years. By age 31, 32, you're going to see a precipitous drop in his overall numbers, which will affect his market. And I think Arenado is going to suffer the Todd Helton effect. I think that Colorado is really going to pull down his value from a collecting standpoint. So if you're doing this specifically to have, I'm going to buy this and it's going to be my nest egg. I'm going to put this one in a vault and I'm just going to forget about it for 10 or 15 years and pull it out and hope for the best. Trout's obviously 1. Harper's obviously 2, just because of name recognition for Harper. And then it just kind of gets muddled with the rest of the 5. I think Mookie Betts, when all is said and done, will finish right along Harper. With Arenado probably dead last and Judge probably 6th. Correa, he's going to leave Houston at some point. He'll probably end up with the Yankees or Red Sox. I think that'll end up driving his value up once. I don't think Houston's going to be able to afford him, especially with all the other Altuve and Bregman and some of the other guys that they're going to have to re-sign at some point. So interesting to see that Mookie Betts is rising, and rightfully so, based on market value. But that would be the guy that I would probably put my money in if I was just choosing one of those group.
So I got a similar opinion as Ben, where Trout's obviously going to be the top 2 watch, and has the sellability. Same with Harper and Bryant, Betts, Correa. One that I didn't see you list that surprisingly is pretty cheap for what it is. The 2015 update Chris Bryant throwback variation. Card number 616. I see some on Raw on eBay sold 25 to 30, but the PSA 10s are like maybe $40. 36, 41, BGS 95. So if you're a Cubs fan, you might want to go check those out. Seems like a good steal if you're looking to get one of his first rookies. I don't see Judge holding up. I mean, the dingers are nice, and yeah, he's a Yankee, but the age is already a factor, and Arenado definitely is going to get the Coors Field effect unless he gets traded somewhere.
He's going to have a solid career. This is where we really have to separate the baseball side of Arenado from the card collecting. There's always those guys out for many years, despite the fact that he's been one of the best players in the league and is now an MVP. Altuve gets no hobby love. I know he has a few cards that are starting to get some recognition, but there's always going to be a small group of guys that should, in theory, get more love that don't. And I think Arenado, when all is said and done, is going to fall into that category, despite the fact that if his offense holds up, I mean, we're talking Brooks Robinson-type defense at third base, and, he's going to be a borderline Hall of Famer when all is said and done, depending on, like Stefan said, if he gets traded and still puts up the numbers, I think he has a better chance. I don't know how the Hall of Fame voters would hold against him his splits, which aren't terrible compared to other players, but they're prevalent. They're there.
So the ones I was looking at would definitely be Chris Bryant. One, because he's a Cub, and 2 is because you can get his tops rookies for Chrome or base for a really good value, and he has 2 Bowman autos for you to pick from, depending where you are. And I have a feeling that he's going to be holed up. Even if he can't play third base anymore, they still can shove him over to first. And then sometime he end up in the American League DHing. Because I have a feeling like he's one of those guys, and he has the personality. You've seen the guy. He just kind of has it all together. that I think long term is that Arenado is my sleeper, and understand him playing in Coors Field. The prices are right. His prices have come up a little bit, but he's one of the guys to look after. I mean, playing third base, the defense that he plays is huge. I agree with Judge. I have a feeling that, as he gets older, that we've seen those home run totals come down, and I don't like. He's not the same guy as Pujols, but I mean, Pujols right now, like, no one's going after Pujols stuff. When he retires and he gets in the Hall of Fame, yeah, I could see it coming back up. But right now, that's no one's chasing him down. Trout is awesome, and if you can grab one, do it. But understand what the prices are on that. My thing is with Harper, he's a free agent at the end of the season, and what happens if he leaves the Nationals and he ends up in Chicago with the Cubs, or he ends up in LA with one of those teams, or he goes to the Rangers because they offer him a ton of money, or he ends up somewhere other than staying in Washington? How do you feel that affects his value long term?
He's to me, he's always going to be the asterisk because of his whole backstory, how young he came up, dropping out of high school and coming up so early, and his all out style of play. He is the polar opposite of Mike Trout. They're the Abbott and Costello. Choose polar opposites as a reference point, and they fit that mold. I don't think Harper's market would be affected quite as much as another player. One guy that you don't have on the top 7 that I think is going to be another underrated player that came up with a lot of potential as far as the hobby goes. I know a lot of people were jumping on him, and to me, he seems like he's kind of the forgotten superstar, is Manny Machado. Yeah. I believe if there's rumors of now him going to the Diamondbacks, which is funny because I used that as a holding point when we were talking about the Topps Living set last week. But if Machado ends up in a big market, whether it be LA, which I don't really see unless it's the Angels, but if he's in New York or Boston, New York is what everybody's assuming he's going to go. I could see there being a serious run on Machado cards. So if you're looking for a short-term investment, I don't know how affordable his cards are, but by comparison, I imagine they're a lot more, relatively speaking, more than some of the other guys that you listed. I would be inclined to want to pick up a couple of his cards, wait and see. They're at the very least going to hold value, so you'll at least be able to get your money back. If he ends up signing with the Yankees, I can see at least a 30 to 40% jump right off the bat. It happened with Giancarlo Stanton. His cards were all of a sudden desirable overnight. And for the first month, I listed a ton of Stanton stuff, and it sold almost immediately. It was ridiculous how quick that stuff was going.
So I was curious, and I ran the numbers. 2010 Bowman Chrome, Manny Machado rookie. Now, mind you, 2010 Topps had the whole Chrome issues, but there's a $8 or best offer for Manny Machado.
Just for his base rookie?
His Chrome first Bowman rookie.
See, and again, it's a small number. How much could that jump? If you bought it for $8 and you sat on it until this winter, would it double in cost? Sure, but it's indicative of if you bought one of his early rookie card autos, whether it's his Bowman Chrome, Topps Chrome, whatever was available on his personal checklist, that would be a good investment opportunity. I could be wrong. I can see there being a Stanton-esque type jump, assuming that he signs with one of the major markets, which at this point more or less seems like a foregone conclusion.
Yep.
All right. Well, I want to move us into our last topic tonight, the trading post. This is going to be a buy-sell trade section, kind of where we talk about, where we go after cards or good spots to go find cards or exchange cards with other collectors. And this is one I don't know a lot about. I've looked into, and we've talked, Ben and I have talked a little about it, and he's used it more than I have. Sportslots.com. I'm going to have Ben go into some detail, what it is, how it works, who's it geared towards, can anybody, go and buy and sell on here? Are there any fees, and what's the experience like when you use sportslots.com?
It's Sport Lots.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sport. I'm sorry, Sport Lots.
SPORTLOTS. I've never sold So honestly, I'm not prepared to answer the question as to what the fees are. I'm sure there are fees. What's nice as a collector is you have the options of looking through multiple sellers. If you're looking for, we're just going to throw out 1987 Topps George Brett. You're looking to complete that. You're looking to be a player hoarder. You can go on there, and there's 100 players or 100 sellers that have at least one George Brett card, for instance. You can buy them all. If one, you know, I happened to do that with the 1987 McGuire. There was one seller that had 50 of them listed for 50 cents a piece. So I was able to buy them all at one time. The one catch is Sport Lots is predominantly baseball driven. So if you're a collector of another sport, your options are going to be extremely limited. The depth of the inventory might be a little challenged, but you know, you never know. It's a good resource, an alternative to eBay. It's a set price. I personally looked at Aaron Judge cards right after he kind of skyrocketed in the industry, and there were still a lot of Aaron Judge base cards you could buy for 18 cents a piece, which is the minimum. So you'll spend at least 18 cents per card. It's a great way to complete team sets. It's a great way to complete player collections, complete sets, whatever your motivation might be. You just have to be careful because there are multiple sellers, which means if you're buying from different people, they're each going to charge you a shipping cost.
Yep.
So you want to try to minimize how many sellers you're buying from at any given time. And Sport Lots just dropped this new Sport Lot box, which I believe is very similar to Check Out My Cards, which will help you save money. The sellers would then send, if I'm understanding it correctly, as it was outlined, if I buy a card from Stefan, I can have him send it to Sport Lots, and then I can buy a card from Tim. You would send it to Sport Lots, and then once I'm ready, in order to save on shipping, I can then buy all the cards at one time. So I believe it's a similar model, if I'm not mistaken. But even if you're just looking for a couple cards here and there, just sometimes it's actually better to buy a card at 50 cents than 35 cents because you're buying from a seller that you already have in your cart as opposed to buying from a brand new seller. So what I'll do personally is I'll put multiple cards if I'm looking to complete, say, one base set and maybe it has 6 ace cards in it. I might put 2, 3 of each of them in my cart to try to combine the sellers to figure out the best economical way for me to save money and minimize the sellers I'm using. So it's a great resource for player collectors, set collectors, and team collectors. If you're a base collector, insert collector, it's a great resource. They have a lot of old cards, a lot of junk wax era. So, you know, they also are set up for auctions, which is nice as well. If you go on the auction, they do a 3-day system, unlike eBay. Let's say that we're bidding on a 1987 Kirby Puckett, and Stefan wants to bid a quarter. It'll run 3 days. If nobody else bids on it, he gets it at the end of day 3 for 25 cents plus shipping. If Tim goes in there and goes, man, I really want an 87 Puckett, and you bid 50 cents, it starts that day over. So if we are currently on day 3, it'll go all the way back to day 1 starting tomorrow. So in theory, you could have a never-ending auction. But what's going to end up happening is at some point, excuse me, at some point or another, what's going to happen is somebody's going to bow out. Pardon me. So it's really fun. I encourage everybody who's like us and isn't necessarily looking for hits. Yeah, there's autographs on there and high price parallels, expensive vintage. That's how I went and gobbled up a lot of my 52 and 53 Oakland A's cards. Well, Philadelphia and Kansas City back when I was putting all the 50s stuff together. So I'll just say A's cards. But I was able to gobble up 8 to 10 of my 1952 A's right off the bat for $3 to $5 a piece. So it's a really good resource to get. I mean, you know, we're talking low grade, of course, but I would say 30-40% of my overall collection probably has come off Sport Lots.
Well, outstanding. I always like finding a new place to fill out sets because I love building them and also tracking down certain players. And it's nice to know that there's another option other than eBay out there to do that, or check out my cards. And we'll highlight check out my cards. One of my go-tos on cards as well later on.
One last thought on sport lots,
Yes.
just because there are a lot of collectors that refuse to buy cards that are shipped in plain white envelopes. A lot of the sellers are then economy. You're buying. I've got 3 cards right here that I recently picked up. For anybody watching, they're a 1992 Baseball Inquirer cards, so they're kind of fun cards with illustrations. To get them shipped to my house was $250 or $225 or something. The 3 of them were 18 cents a piece, more or less, but they came in a plain white envelope. So you have to be aware that you're spending less money on shipping, and that's how they're coming. So don't be upset if you're expecting bubble mailers, because some do send in bubble mailers, some do regular shipping, $350 a piece. Just understand that before you go on there and buy and get upset when your cards come in a good old envelope.
Yep.
Well, guys, I want to thank you and thank everybody for listening tonight. Remember, we're live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Coast time, 11 p.m. East Coast here on YouTube. You also can subscribe and review our show on YouTube, iTunes, Stitcher, and soon the Google Play Store. You can follow us and the pod at About the Cards on Twitter. You can follow Ben and all of his A's collecting love at Our Trading Cards, and Stefan and his Junkwax Twins, and see all of his Minnesota homerism. And then you can always follow me at Big Shep 79 as well. All of us are on Twitter there. And you also can check out my website, bigshepcards.com, and list all the sets I'm currently working on. It has my Twitter feed on there, my Instagram, which I need to be better at. But it kind of lets you know what I'm working on and what I'm collecting. One of my favorite little segments in there is acquisition assessments, where this year I've been putting $1 aside for every purchase that I make, baseball card related, supplies, cards, etc., which I just cashed out for a nice purchase. It's going to wait till the end of the year, but someone close to me reached out and said they had something I've been looking for a long, long time, and it's supposed to be here tomorrow. And I will reveal that next week, or if you follow me on Twitter, you will see it and see the tears coming down my eyes as I reveal that package. And not my package, the package.
Just got deleted from Google Play.
Yes. And so I will be sharing that in all of its glory tomorrow, hopefully, if not on Friday. Depends on what my night's like. But guys, thank you all for joining us tonight. I appreciate it. Ben,
one last thought in closing. I do have 2 polls right now on Twitter at Our Trading Cards for future topics. One is box breakers, that whole area of the hobby, good for the long-term sustainability of the hobby. So please, if that poll is still live by the time you watch or listen, go give that a vote on Twitter. And the other one is marketing tactics, such as using non-sports card related marketing tactics. Is that good for the hobby, or is that something that good, bad, or indifferent? So we're going to run polls here and there on Twitter, just kind of giving us talking points moving forward, because we really do want to be your voice, our voice, and that blue collar voice of just good old card collectors.
Yep.
Well, again, thank you very much for joining us tonight. We hope to see you soon, and we do appreciate the support, the follows. Please give us your feedback, honest. We don't care. Let us know what we need to improve on or ideas for the show. We are looking to have some interviews coming up, hopefully next week. But guys, again, thank you very much. Enjoy your collecting and have a wonderful evening.